Your business exists because you had the idea to start it. Everything begins in our minds. That's why your business results cannot outgrow your current level of thinking. Do you want to serve more clients, make more money, without working more or burning yourself out? Grow yourself first as a leader of your business, because that's who you are, a leader, even if you're the only person in your business right now. When you lead yourself first, the business results will always follow. My name is Maggie. I'm an international business and leadership coach, an expert in business mindset, strategy, and high performance. I created the Diamond Effect podcast to help you elevate your thinking, expand your perspective, and through it, grow your business without overwhelm. So let's get started. Hello, wonderful Diamond Effect podcast listeners. Welcome to the next episode of our podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the resilience that we as business owners and CEOs need to build in order to grow our business. And that comes down to how we deal with challenges that are inevitable in running any business and really in life. And I came up with this topic, showed up in my coaching in the past couple of weeks, and I thought that it would be helpful for you as well. So I really believe that your success or the ability to tolerate success expands proportionally to your ability to deal with challenges that inevitably come. And I've heard Tony Robbins say that, which was a really great way to put it. And I heard Tony Robbins say that the biggest mistakes that many people make is that they think that when challenges happen in their life and in their business, that the challenges are the problem, that they're not supposed to happen, that there's something wrong with them as human beings or with them as business owners because they're having those challenges, where in reality, life is 50-50. Every one of us encounters challenges in our lives. 50% of the time, we're happy, things go great, and 50% of the time, things don't go the way we want them to go. And it's same in business. I coach and see many business owners sometimes, beat themselves up for the decisions that they made or maybe how they handled challenges in the past and so on. We do the best we can usually with the experience and the knowledge that we have in that moment. And hindsight, yes, it's a great teacher, but usually it can be a great teacher for the future. It cannot help us with the past. And challenges are just a normal thing that happens when you run and grow and scale a business. And when you try new things, when you have a business over a long period of time and the circumstances around you, the economy, the clients you serve, or technology changes, you inevitably encounter certain challenges, right? And then how we deal with them, how we solve the problems that will happen, no matter whether we want them or not, is what determines how successful we can truly be. And part of that emotional resilience is to not allowing problems and challenges stress you out and overwhelm you and bog you down to the point where they paralyze you, when they affect your health, and rather learn how to take them in a calm manner and, while still processing negative emotions that will come naturally, but then how to put yourself back to a very leadership-like, thought-through responses and solutions to those challenges. And before we go into that, I want to share with you a couple of things that I just learned through my life, not only as a coach, but also just as a child and an adult while dealing with challenges that came my way. So the first thing is I really got myself into habit for always looking for lessons. So in any challenge that I deal with, whether it's part of my doing or part of it, I had no control over it. I always look for lessons, so something positive, a silver lining out of it. You can do that by asking yourself a couple of questions. It's like, what is this challenge? What lessons can I learn? Or another way to look for it is, how is this for me? Even though I didn't want it, I didn't ask for it, I had no control. And even though I don't like what's happening, how is this for me? My parents divorced when I was 11, and definitely it wasn't my fault. I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it, but it happened. And over the course of my life, instead of maybe being mad at my parents or thinking that, there's something wrong with me, or thinking that I was negatively affected by the failed relationship with my parents, I looked at it as, what can I learn from it so my relationships are much better? And for example, the three main lessons that I learned from it is that I don't want to be in a relationship for somebody else. So I'm actually glad that my parents divorced and not stayed there for kids, meaning me and my sister, while they were, having arguments that as a child I didn't like. And I thought it was more traumatic to me to see them and listening to them argue rather than them being apart and not having those arguments anymore. And me seeing my mom and my dad, because my dad was always in the picture, and me seeing them in a more calm and happy states, right? And the other lesson that I took out of it is not letting other people voice their opinions unsolicited about my relationship and my life and what I choose and so on. Because I believe part of the fact that my parents couldn't agree was their own parents kind of mixing their 5 cents into the relationship. So that was a big lesson for me. And then the last one was that I really believe that I want to be in a relationship that I'm happy with and so on. And I'd rather be alone than just be in the relationship because that's a girl or as a young woman I'm supposed to, right? And I think that those lessons allowed me to have happy relationships overall in my life, right? Whether they were romantic relationships or friendships that really, I am very intentional how I build them. And part of it is from the lessons that I learned from my parents' divorce. So another way I think personally about challenges and problems is that God or universe or whatever you believe in doesn't send you challenges or doesn't put you through trials that you cannot handle. So anything that's happening, I believe I can always handle and figure out no matter what. And as difficult as it might be to go through them and as difficult as it might seem, I believe that in the end, I'm going to be stronger for it, that I'm going to be wiser for it. And I always believe that as I'm dealing with the challenge, it's never the end. The challenges are just trials or things that pass. And as long as I keep going through them and solving for them and figuring out what's in my power to deal with it, I will end up successful in the end, even though sometimes you might not know how long it's going to take, and I'll be stronger and wiser for it. And the third perspective that helps me deal with challenges that I acquired more as I went into coaching and leadership and built really ability to really take ownership of how I have a lot of control of how I create my life and my results, is that really whatever we're dealing with, we have a certain perspective, and that perspective is not the truth of the world. So how we're thinking about the challenge is not the only way we can think about it. It's not always true. It's just how we perceive this thing based on our experience, based on, some things that our brain offers us. And there's always a different point of view that we could be thinking that maybe will serve us better and will allow us to go through that challenge in an easier or faster way. So to illustrate that in really any situation that we're dealing with can be looked at in a different perspective, right? So I will give you a simple example and then I'll bring up a parable that I've heard in a couple of books already that I thought it's really good way to illustrate that. A simple example is you have $1,000. And for one person, that $1,000 could seem like a challenge. Like they're, oh my God, I'm broke. I don't have enough with the $1,000. I have so many expenses, so many things that $1,000 is not enough. And then for another person, the same situation can be a godsend. They might be so happy that they never had that much amount of money and that their dreams will come true because now they have ability to use that money to pursue their dreams. So if you think about it, same situation, two different perspectives. Okay, so now let me tell you the story. It's a Taoist parable, and it's often called the story of a Chinese farmer that illustrates the wisdom of not rushing to judge the event good or bad right away, because the true consequences of any event are unknown. There's a lot of things that are happening that we cannot comprehend, and you never know what you deem as a challenge will bring you in a long term. And maybe whatever is happening has to happen for you to be successful on the other end, right? So here is the parable. A farmer had a horse, and his only horse runs away. Neighbors offer sympathy for his bad luck, and the farmer replies, maybe. And then the horse returns with several wild horses. Neighbors congratulate him on his good luck. And the farmer says, maybe. And then the farmer's son tries to tame one of the wild horses, falls, and breaks his leg. Neighbors commiserate over his misfortune. And the farmer replies, maybe. And then the army comes to the village to conscript young men for war, but passes over the farmer's son because of his broken leg. And neighbors celebrate his great fortune, but the farmer replies, maybe. So then the key takeaway from that is that life is immensely complex. And there's a lot of processes that are interconnected. And it's the same in our business as we go and, take action and do the things to grow and scale it. So when you maintain more open and non-judgmental perspective, treating something as bad or good or thinking that something is not supposed to happen, you can actually remain calm through those unpredictable ups and downs of life and allow yourself to see truly whether those ups and downs are truly ups and downs as you think about it. So what does that have to do with you being a leader and a CEO of your business? So as I said, the calmer you can be during, let's call them challenging times or problems, the better you can respond to them, the better solutions you can figure out, and then long term, the better results you create. And also long term, the better results you can create, and you can achieve those results and keep growing on that success. Because think about it, a CEO of a large company, the challenges that they have to deal with can seem pretty stressful, like maybe lawsuits that their company is going through, or maybe employees that got injured on the job. And, they have to deal with the tragedy of those injuries and the families that are affected. If it's a publicly traded firm, they have to deal with the pressure of the shareholders and the board. And if you think about, customer complaints when they're serving millions and millions of clients, even if the customer complains, it's a very small percentage. On a number level, it's still very high. So a skill that juggles a lot of that. If you think about it, they have to have a very strong resilience and emotional capacity to hold that and not lose their mind. As opposed to when you're a small business owner, sometimes I find people think that them dealing with maybe a bad decision that cost them $10,000 and lost revenue or whatever. They invested $10,000 in something that didn't work out. Or they're, overwhelmed by dealing with one unhappy customer or one bad review, right? Or worrying about where the next client comes from. And then allowing those kind of smaller problems in comparison to what I just told you affect their stress levels, affect how productive they are, affect their motivation or their love for their business and so on. When I talk to business owners who get really affected by problems like that, that tells me that they need to build up a resilience. That tells me that their emotional capacity has to expand. Otherwise, they will not be able to handle a growing and scaling business. Because the more clients you serve, the bigger business you have, the challenges become more complex. But it does not mean that you have to be more stressed out about it. The key and secret is growing your resilience so you are actually handling those challenges cool, calm, and collected. Okay, that they are not affecting you to the point when you're not sleeping at night and you're spending months and weeks, traumatized by them, but you're more thinking very clearly and calmly how to resolve them. You take action to resolve them, and you sort of have that Taoist farmer's attitude, right? That anything can be good or bad. It really depends how you think about it. And there's so interconnectedness between different things that sometimes it's even hard for it to truly judge if the event we're dealing with right now is good or bad. So we might as well not judge it that way and just respond to it in the best way we know in that moment. And if you think about it, your emotional capacity has expanded and you built up the resilience as you grew up, right? Just think about little kids. Little kids, they cry and they're really affected by the smallest things, right? They have an ice cream drops on the ground. And for a small child who really loves ice cream, this seems like the end of the world. But then as you grow up, you realize that's not a big deal. I can buy another ice cream or it's not that important, right? So the problem hasn't changed, but how you think about it, how you weigh that problem changes with perspective and maturity as you grow. So it's the same with you being a business owner. When as an adult, you can grow that capacity to handle variety of problems, even if they don't change, the way you think about them and the way they affect you changes, right? So like I remember in the beginning of my business, the way I thought or handled cold outreach, right? And doing some cold sales, which in the beginning, I couldn't get myself to do it. I thought about it as really a bad thing. And I was having very emotional response, even if I tried, like I couldn't get myself to try it. Right now, when I do a cold outreach to potential clients, I don't have a reaction like that. I actually have positive thoughts about it. I think it's a great way to connect with people that I would never connect with. Otherwise, I do it in a tailored way, so I actually enjoy it. And even though with a cold outreach, you will hear more no's than yeses, those no's do not bother me anymore at all because I grew my resilience, right? And I see that in my clients as well, that maybe sometimes when they start coaching with me, they come overwhelmed with what's going on in their business. And very often it's not just because they have a lot going on, it's because how they think about whatever is going on and how they treat it. And as I coach them, they become less overwhelmed because they're building resilience and emotional capacity while still building some systems and good habits that allow them to handle way more in less time. Also, part of the coaching and what I teach my clients is to have self compassion and not beat themselves up for not being perfect or for making a decision in the past that didn't turn out to be the best decision. But only they know that because now they have more experience, more perspective, and more hindsight. So just learning from the past or learning from the challenges to do better in the future and not beating yourself up will expand that resilience for you. Okay. So now what can you do to build up your emotional capacity to be able to handle bigger and more complex problems in a better way that doesn't affect you, where you can just focus on, you can quickly process the negative emotions that come up, but not let them linger and really affect you negatively, and rather focus on solving for the challenges that you're dealing with or figuring out solutions and getting stronger and better for it with you in your business. The first thing is definitely coaching. Having a coach is huge and very effective in building that resilience because it gives you a different perspective. My outlook on what you're dealing with will be very different than yours, even on the event itself, and learning coaching tools that you can then use on yourself to sort of self-coaching is very powerful. It will allow you to process negative emotions faster, learn how to apply different perspective to the events that are happening, and then pick one that serves you the most, and through that, take better actions, make better decisions. Coaching also helps to deal with bigger challenges in much more effective way and sort of faster because, of course, the bigger the challenge, the more shock we get into our system in that one moment or in the short period of time. So that's definitely one that I highly recommend. Super effective. But there's a couple of things you can do on your own. So the second thing is growing your skills and doing uncomfortable things. And part of doing uncomfortable things is growing your skills. Very often we're fearing or we're feeling uncomfortable because we don't know how to do that thing yet. And when we put ourselves out there and we do it, we gain familiarity with how to do it, how it works, we gain skill sets, we get better, and therefore our capacity expands. And that can be with many different things. So for example, the way I told you, I challenge myself with cold outreach, not only because it helps my business, but also, and I wanted to learn the skill set of generating cold leads through cold outreach, but also I wanted to grow my emotional capacity and build the stamina of hearing no, right? Cold outreach is great to immune yourself to hearing. And the more you do it in smaller steps that are less emotionally taxing in the beginning, and then with that, you can go more consistently, you can go on longer, the more your capacity and resilience expands. So one thing you can do, you don't need to do cold outreach, but what you can do is challenge yourself to ask for big things or at least one thing a day where most likely you will hear no. So if you can get 5 no's a week and start learning how not to be affected by a no, you will grow your emotional capacity this way. Or a challenge could be 100 no's in a month, whatever that is. Doing uncomfortable things, doing scary things, putting yourself out there, even in a small chunks, will allow you to build up resilience. A second thing you could do is actually visualize yourself achieving big success, something that you might think it's not even possible, and then processing the emotions that come up as you think about those challenges. So let's just say you want to build up your social media and have millions of followers, and through that, make sales in your business. But with that, there might be some hate from trolls that will come. So imagining that and processing, how would you feel about that? How would you think about that? What would you do? Allows your brain to normalize it in a way, and not to normalize it to say that this is, okay to do, but normalize it for you as a situation and how you will handle it. So then when it happens in reality, you don't get as negatively affected by it. So that visualization, it's a tool that actually pro athletes do when they prepare for big races or Olympic Games. It's greatly explained in a Netflix documentary that came out recently from a free solo climber, Alex Honnold, who in the beginning of the year free climbed Taipei 101, one of the highest skyscrapers in the world, in the documentary. And he talks about his preparation. So one of the preparations is him imagining and visualizing all the emotional challenges, but also physical challenges and pain that he could potentially encounter during the climb. So his brain knows them, prepares for them, and they're not a surprise when he does, because if he had too many surprises, it could cost his life. And you can do this same with even your success in business and thinking about what challenges that could bring and building your resilience this way. And then one last key part that's very important when you are actively working on growing on resilience is actually taking care of yourself as a high performer. And it's taking care of your mind, your mind, your body, and your soul. And in your mind, I have a concept that I teach my clients and habits that go with it. What mindset maintenance allows you to do is be better and self-regulating your emotional state, and not allow fight or flight or freeze, so survival mode, take over when you deal with challenges. And I did talk about mindset maintenance at some point on this podcast, so I will bring in the podcast episode in the show notes, but that's the whole concept and tools that I teach my clients when I coach with them. That you want to take care of your mind, you want to take care of your body. So you want to be rested with proper sleep. You want to be well nourished. So the food you eat, the movement, fresh air, being in nature, it all helps you handle challenges in a better way and be stronger and more resilient. Taking care of your soul, meaning your spiritual needs, love, relationships, and looking at yourself holistically as a human will also help you handle challenges. When we are drained in all areas of our life, where we're tired and not well nourished, when we're missing key love and tenderness in our life, it's then very hard to be cool, calm, and collected when challenges come. I like to think of myself in business that I'm a pro, and just like professional athletes take care of themselves and really are at the cutting edge of self-care in a good positive sense of it, so they can perform at their best during the Olympics or races that they do. I think of myself, and I want to invite you to think of yourself as well. You're a pro in business. And as a CEO, as a leader of your business, you're the biggest asset of that business. And yes, we might not perform a lot of physical work, although that depends on what you do in your service business. But definitely with your mind, It can be taxing and draining all the decisions you're making, all the things you're going through. So you want to take care of yourself as a pro. You want to take care of you as an asset. So having that holistic approach is important. And that's why I have it in my sustainable scale system when I help my clients scale to multiple 6, 7+ figures in it. It's not just about strategy and process and systems. It's also about you, the CEO, the person, and how you operate, how resilient you are, how well you handle that will allow you or not to get to that success and actually feel good about it, maintain it, keep growing it while living a life that you love and not being stressed out, overwhelmed, and burned out through it. So I hope this episode helped. If you want to talk more about how I can help you scale your business, book a consultation call through the link in the show notes. Talk to you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening today. If this podcast resonated with you, please come back. Also, you can leave a review on whatever platform you're listening. And if you have a suggestion, question, or a topic you would like me to talk about, let's get in touch via email. Email me at Maggie@stairwaytoleadership.com. See you in the next episode.